everybody, my name is Angie. Welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make a Minky throw size blanket. So you can make it, depending on the fabrics that you pick. This could be like a throw for an adult, something nice to lay on your couch, or I like to make this with like kid themed fabric, and it's a great size for toddlers, for them to kind of grow into. So that's another thing that I like to do. They can like wrap up on the couch, or lay it down for movie night, or something like that. So depending on the fabric that you pick, either way this size will work, whether for an adult for a lap size, or for a younger kid, up to like maybe 10, 11, 12 when kids hit their growth spurt. But even then, if it's also for an adult, whatever. So depending on the fabric, it could work for just about anybody. So that's what I'm gonna be working on. So I'm gonna use Minky on the top and Minky on the bottom. So it's, I got the Minky from Joann's. So the bottom is going to be like that dot or dimple Minky, whatever it is. And then the top is like a low loft plush, like fleecy type Minky. So it's not very thick, so it's not going to be like the faux fur fuzzy kind of Minky. But that's what I'm going to be working on. I got 1.5 yards for the top and the bottom. I believe the Minky fabric that they have at Joann's is like 60 inches wide. So that's what I do, the width of the fabric by 1.5 yards for both the top and the bottom, or for the front and the back, whatever. So that's all that you need, along with normal sewing supplies and like as many clips or pins as you can possibly find. We're going to use a lot. Minky needs a lot of pins or clips, just because it's so soft and slippery that it shifts a lot. So stockpile on a lot of them, and that's what we're going to need. So, and you kind of need a big space that you can kind of sprawl out. So I have a freshly vacuumed space on my floor here that I'm going to go ahead and kind of sprawl everything out over here. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to go ahead and take, one of the pieces, doesn't matter which one. I don't know which side I have more room on. Yeah, that one. And we're just going to go ahead and lay it out right side up, and kind of, it's going to be stretchy, so try not to stretch it out too much. Just kind of lay it flat as best as you can. Okay, and then we're going to take our other fabric. So this one is that low pile kind of fleecy Minky, and we're just going to lay that down on top of it so that they are right sides together. And we're just going to try our best to align all of the edges, but we're going to have to go ahead and clean up this, because this is the side where they cut the fabric, and it's never really a straight cut, so you usually have to trim things off, just kind of get it all look nice. And again, I want to make sure that I am not wrinkling the underside. I want that to lay flat still, so I'm just very gently kind of just raking my hands over top of it to get it to lay flat. And just from where it was folded on the bolt, I don't know if you can see in the video, but there is a pretty good crease right there. And I'm not worried about it right now. When the blanket is all made, I have a little steamer that I go and steam. You don't want to iron Minky, because it's synthetic and it can melt, but you can steam it. So that's what I do. I have like a little steamer, not to steam with your iron, but that's what I do, just kind of hang it up and steam it. So I'll get rid of those wrinkles later. Okay, now another thing that I didn't mention that you don't necessarily need, but I find it helpful, is measuring tape. Just because it kind of gives you a nice long straight edge, because just visually looking at it, sometimes it's hard to tell if, you know, the cut line is straight. So I'm gonna do one of these. And I just put it in a little bit in case the underside, like this one, is a little bit further in. So I'm just gonna do it just like that. And I'm just kind of looking at the fabric and just seeing if my line, I can see, you know, the print on the other side, and just seeing if it kind of looks like it's a straight line. It's not too like, right. And then, yeah, there. Yeah, that's good. And then I'm just using a Sharpie and just kind of, it's hard to do because the tape measure moves, but just kind of drawing a line that I'm gonna trim off later. Okay. And then what I'm also gonna do now is use that line. I'll trim it in a little bit here, but I'm gonna use this line and just kind of at a few different spots measure the length of the fabric. Because again, it's usually not a very good cut. Like I was at 52 here, now I'm at 53 over here. So I'm just kind of trying to see the shortest distance between the edge of the fabric over there and over here. And it looks like it's generally about 52 inches. So what I'm gonna do is go over to that side and draw a line at the 52-inch mark, measuring from this line here. And that'll get me, you know, a line that I can cut down there. I think that will be good, except that's a small space over there. I'm not going to have a whole lot of space to do that. We'll see how this works. All right. So now I'm just coming over here and put this at the 52-inch mark. And I'm just drawing some little tick marks. And then we're just going to use the tape measure again as my straight edge to kind of join those tick marks. All right. Now grab my scissors and I'm just going to go ahead and cut both of those lines off, or cut off at both of those lines to give us a nice straight border there, or sides. And then I'm also going to go ahead and cut the selvage edges off of both ends here. So I'm just kind of trimming it down a little bit and evening it up as I go. All right, so now we got everything all trimmed down and evened up. All of the edges are, you know, kind of squared off and everything's nice and even. So now we can get to pinning it. So what we're gonna do is just, what I like to do is, we need to leave an opening for this to turn it right side out. So what I like to do is just take my pins and in one spot, use my pins to just basically mark an X. Sorry, I don't feel like moving my tripod, so I'm just holding this and it's gonna be a little shaky. But literally I just put my pins into the shape of an X there and then left an opening, you know, like a little bit bigger than my hand width, so that I can fit all of this through that to open it. Sorry, this is super shaky. All right, so we have the mark or the opening marked, and we're just gonna go ahead and the entire way around, we're just gonna go ahead and pin. I like to do like every inch, if not like every half an inch, just again, because it shifts so much and then you end up getting puckers and it's a pain to pin, but it turns out better if you pin excessively. All right, so now that we have it all pinned, we can go ahead and gather it up and take it to the sewing machine. I like to kind of pull it slowly when I'm pinning on carpet because there's been times where I've pinned it to the carpet. So just go slow. Make sure you didn't pin anything to the carpet. And I like to just kind of grab my opening so that I don't lose it at the sewing machine and just kind of hold that part of it while I go over there. All right, so now over at our sewing machine, I'm gonna go ahead and doesn't really matter which side you sew from. The gray side is already face up on my machine, so that is the side that I am gonna start, or that I'm gonna have face up while I'm sewing. Actually, I lied because my pins are all on this side, so I will go ahead and carefully flip it. Ow. I usually end up stabbing myself several times in the process, but okay. And then I also went ahead and put a walking foot on my machine. So that is another helpful, not necessary, but very helpful tool to be using when working with Minky. And then I'm going to go ahead and put my stitch length to a 4 because it's a little bit thicker than, you know, typical cotton. No, I'm sorry. I have it at 3.5. 3.5. So I'm going to go ahead and just start at my X here. And with Minky, even though we trimmed it all up and everything, there is still going to be shifting that goes on while we're sewing this. It's just a fact of life with Minky. So I like to do a 1/2 inch seam allowance just to give myself some wiggle room in case the bottom fabric kind of slides its way over. It gives me a 1/2 inch of wiggle room of shifting with the edge of the fabric. And I do have a gray thread that I am using. This piece, or this part of it, does not need to be a coordinating thread because you're not going to see it, but I don't feel like changing thread for the next step, and the next step is going to be top stitching, which is a visible thread. So I'm just using gray thread to begin with. So I'm going to back stitch, and we just go slow, pulling our pins out as we go. All right, and I am at my corner. Water bottle gets in the way. I'm at the corner, so I'm going to go ahead and lift my presser foot and shift the fabric over while my needle is down. And then from here, I can just keep right on going. All right, so now we are back at the other side where our other X is. So we're coming up to it. We're just gonna go ahead and pull these pins out, backstitch a couple times to lock those seams in, and cut our threads. And now I put my scissors away, but we're gonna need scissors again. So now what I like to do is just go ahead and clip the corners. I'm gonna trim my starting threads too. Long tails. But I'm just gonna go ahead and go around and inspect all of the seams just to make sure I caught everything. And then when I get to the corners, I'm just gonna go ahead and snip off the corner there. It just helps it sit a little nicer. Sometimes I'll just
kind of ease into the corners a little bit like that. And it just kind of helps the corners poke out a little nicer. Another thing that you could do if you wanted to, that would look kind of cute, is while you're sewing it, you could kind of draw a line to curve the edges so that it's not a blunt corner like this. It has like a rounded edge. That's something that you could do too. That would be cute. I did not, but. And then we'll just keep going. I just kind of grab a section and just inspect, make sure I caught the bottom fabric and the top fabric really. And also make sure that things like this didn't happen. So I don't know, it might be hard to tell in the camera here, but what happened is my fabric kind of got sucked in over here into the seam, so it's kind of puckered up now. So I'm going to need to go ahead and redo that really quick. So I'm going to get my seam ripper out. This is why I inspect it, because things like that happen. So I'm just going to go ahead and get my seam ripper out and carefully cut that seam. Yeah, so you can see a little bit better here, like all of that got sucked in, like a good 1/2 inch of the backing fabric. Yeah, the seam is up here, but down here is where it was folded up and sewed in. So I got that seam ripped open. So now I just need to go back and redo that spot. So I'll just come in like 1 inch before the stitches end there. And it's a small spot, so I'm not gonna pin it again. And back stitch. There we go. So that spot is fixed now. All right, so that spot's good. Let's see if that's the only one. Come up to the next corner, clip that off. There was one spot where it felt like it was sewing through a thicker spot, so that must have been it. Hopefully that was the only one. Sometimes my seam allowance ends up being, like, things shift, you know, so sometimes this ends up being a lot bigger than just a 1/2 inch, so I'll trim it off then. All right, back at the start. Everything else looked good, so this is good to go. Put my seam ripper away. Fingers crossed, knock on wood, I won't need it again. Usually when I put it away, I do need it again. Now I lost my opening. Where'd it go? Ah, there it is. Okay, so now we're just gonna go ahead and take the entire thing and pull it all right on through that opening there. Oh, that's staticky. So the opening should be plenty big enough that you shouldn't have to struggle with it too much. It just, you know, takes some time. Oh, so staticky. Okay, and then from here, I just kind of go down one seam, following the seam down, get to the corner, poke it out. Keep following the seam, get to the corner, poke it out. Oh, I don't know if you can hear that static. Ugh. should be the last corner. Yep, okay. That was the last corner. So now all we gotta do is take the opening and we're gonna fold it in on itself. And you're just gonna like fold the fabric down a 1/2 inch. Usually if you kind of fold it and like pull it taut, it will fold in on itself how it's supposed to. And then we'll just pin that opening closed. Okay. And then we're just going to go ahead and back to the sewing machine, top stitch at about 1/8 of an inch the entire way around. So I like to start just, I swear, I checked this chair before I started filming and it was not squeaky, and now all of a sudden it is again. I don't know. Okay. So I like to start before my pinned section, just so that this first spot I can get rid of all my pins and it closes up the opening. And then as I'm going, because we can't iron this, you can't really get a nice crisp seam here. So as I'm going, I am just kind of rolling the fabric in between my fingers so that I get a nice crisp edge here, and then just hold it in place with my hands. And I just sew until that spot that I, checked it, and then just come down and do the same thing again, maybe like 6 inches or so, 6 to 8 inches. And then with both hands, I'm just holding that seam there. And now I'm back at the spot where I folded it in. Do it again, and just do that the whole way around.
All right, and that is it. So we've got this nice size blanket. So this, if you can see, I am 5'6", so that is about how high it comes up on me. So, and it's, nice and wide. So this is a great blanket for, like I said, for a lap blanket, or like a throw blanket, something to put on your couch. Probably not with the monster print that's on here, but again, this one is for, a younger boy, something that they can like lay out and play on, lay out and watch movies on, or curl up in. And it's big enough that, they can keep this for many, many years and, grow with it. So, yeah, just a nice little gift. This is, that took me about, I think I'm at like 1 hour and 15 minutes to make that. And that's with all the talking and everything. So typically I can make one of these in about 1 hour. So, not too terrible of a project. It, comes together nice and quick. Minky fabric does tend to be a little bit pricier, but, you make up for it in the time compared to a quilt. So, but yeah, so that is the Minky blanket, a Minky throw blanket, or a Minky toddler blanket. So if you like this video, if you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up and leave a comment down below if you have any questions on sewing with Minky, or if you've made one of these and you have any pointers for anybody else sewing with Minky. That would be awesome. And make sure to subscribe to stay tuned for more videos. I'll see you next time. Bye.